What's going on, everybody? This is Dave, everybody's favorite fanny pack operator. And today we're gonna tackle one of the tough questions of the year. Is the GH5 worth it in 2025? If you are a filmmaker, a cinematographer, a professional video guy in your own town, a vlogger, or just a diehard enthusiast, this video is gonna be for you. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like, share it with your friends, tell your neighbor, or yell at your principal about it. I don't care. Just get the word out, because there's probably more than one of you out there that are looking for this kind of information. This camera hit the scene in 2017, and it was touted as an absolute showstopper with the videographer in mind. There were rumors that quickly became fact, like for example, the 10-bit 422 color space and 4K 60 frames per second shooting ability allowed you to create all kinds of great little cinematic masterpieces, and you had the added benefit of not just sending it up to YouTube, but you could also send it up to Netflix. That is right. This camera was an absolute monster under the hood. Other really awesome features were that it did have continuous shooting capabilities. Most other cameras at the time, such as the Canon 5D Mark III and Mark IV and the Sony R2s or the Sony A7 line, they had a problem with stopping recording after about 30 minutes, and some of them even overheated if they recorded too long. I have experienced both of those. One of the other really fantastic things that they were pitching about this camera was that it was weatherproof. People could bring it out to like 15 degrees in the middle of the snow, a little bit of rain, and could still absolutely crush what they were doing. At the end of the day, the GH5 was just something that only was limited by what your limits were. This camera could do it all. So naturally, I bought one. MSRP at the time was just under about $2,000 US, which seems like kind of a lot, but that was 2017. So fast forward to 2025, how does this stack up? So we're gonna look at three things to see if this camera stacks up for the year 2025. One, image quality, because if it doesn't look good, it's probably not gonna be good. Two, features. All those things that everybody was buzzing about back then, do they still hold up today? And three, and probably the most important for some of you, is the price point. We're gonna talk about what you can get one of these bad Larrys for and how much. But first,
I didn't come to talk about grandma.
the Panasonic GH5 featured a micro 4/3 floating sensor with in-body stabilization. One of the things that absolutely crushed all of its competitors was the fact that it also featured a 60 frame per second in 4K. Now, I'm not talking about the 3840 by 2860 4K. I'm talking real, true AF 4096 by 2160 cinema 4K. You weren't gonna get that anywhere else in the market at the time. It had dual native ISO so that you could get all that sweet low light footage, and it had unlimited recording, which meant that you weren't constrained to that 30-minute time limit when you're doing interviews as you were, say, on the Canon, the Sony, or the Nikon. And for all you vloggers, you got the flip touch screen and internal, external recording options, which means you can take your Atomos and slap that SOB on you or next to it, or one of those other monitors that does the recording. You can run all that through an actual HDMI cable. It also featured an audio jack next to the headphone jack, showing the world that it is an actual true video camera. And there was a way to hook up an XLR mount to it off the top so you can get really cool footage with your scratch audio being your main audio. This camera was super lightweight and very ergonomic. The grip was probably one of the most comfortable ones I've held in a long time. It almost felt like it fit in my little baby hands right here. And it was fully weatherproof. And when I say weatherproof, I'm talking freeze proof. There's people that were going out and filming in the snow. Me, myself, I'm a desert guy, so I'm going out in the extreme heat. I never once had an overheating issue in the 8 years that I've been using it. And I never once had a freeze issue. I feel like that's something very important. Now, when comparing the Panasonic GH5 to the Canon 5D Mark IV, the Sony A7 series, and the Nikon, I want to say D750s, I used all three of those at one point or another. The Panasonic was always my go-to and it was always my favorite. And then sometimes it did get me trouble at work for using a camera that wasn't the jobs camera. Compared to the Canon 5D Mark IV, I felt that while the color space in the Canon was really good, it just didn't have the right codecs and sometimes it looked a little oversaturated. C-Log was fun to work with, but not as easily manipulated with that high log gamma like the GH5 featured. When you compare it to the Sony A7 series, the Sony A7 kind of felt like a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. It just wasn't working out. And what I meant by that was that shooting on the newest one, I want to say it was the A7 III, that camera overheated when it was over 95 degrees when we were outside on more than one occasion, to the point where it almost ruined a few of my projects. I did run into a couple issues with the Sony A7 where the recording limit was reached at about 29 minutes. And one of the things that really bothered me was, yes, it did shoot in slow motion, but I did not have as many options compared to the variable frame rate that went up to 180 frames per second in 1080p or 60 frames per second in 4K. And because the GH5 was built with video people in mind, there was the preamp inside the camera. Yes, the scratch audio is still very clean and easy to work with. As a matter of fact, I think this clip right here does kind of convey that a little bit. Now, I'm sure all you guys love hearing all the cool shit about this camera that makes it so awesome and so great, but really at the end of the day, you're concerned about cost. Well, comparing to the 5D Mark IV that's clocking in roughly about 3 Gs for a camera body, or the Sony, which is also clocking in at the comparable $3,000 for a camera body, the Panasonic GH5, you can find on places like Amazon, eBay for roughly about $1,000 US. But if you go to a cool website that I like to go to because you might be balling on a budget, you're gonna go to a place called MPB, and you'll probably find one between $500 and $700. You can find them for very cheap. At the end of the day, for me, this camera more than paid for itself. And I've taken it on a lot of different gigs with me. I've taken it to a couple films that I was a director of photography for, and it's done a few shorts. It got me through film school. It put me through a few other things. I would always use it as a backup camera or as a run and gun style camera for when I was out in the field. With everything that we talked about today, would I still use it? Yes, I would. As a matter of fact, I am right now. It's what you're looking at right here. So yes, in my professional opinion, the Panasonic GH5 is still an absolute favorite for budget cameras in 2025 for both vloggers and filmmakers alike. So there you have it, everybody. That is what my pick is for the best budget camera for 2025, and it is the Panasonic. Go ahead and drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me where you think you can get one, or tell me if you've had one and what you liked or didn't like about it. I'd like to hear what your thoughts were. So thanks for watching. And as always, everybody be safe and have an awesome day.